I cast you down, you non-believers in the aliens of old. Now, people still say Sumerian is mythology and Enlil was fake and there's no such thing as Enlil. That's because they don't want it to be, because that means it changes religion, changes everything. Now, there are actually peer-reviewed papers that talk about Enlil, etc., as if he is a real character. And of course, then once he becomes a real character, he'll need his own temple. And of course, Enlil did have his own temple, and this is what's left of it, which is a bit of a shame. However, what makes Enlil a god or an alien then? Well, the actual tablets. Now, you've now agreed that he was a real character, so why can you not agree that the tablets that talk about him are genuine? No one's going to sit and write hundreds of thousands of these tablets and bury them for a giggle. So when you translate the tablets and you've got things like Adapa, which was Adam, out of Adam and Eve, being taken up to another planet, and then King Anu saying send him back to his earth, the Bible versus cuneiform tablets. Now, I'm going to be writing a book showing you the differences between the Bible and the original texts. Now, I know there's people out there that don't even understand that there's cuneiform tablets that predate the Bible, that the Bible copied from, and I know there's people that don't even know that we have two fused chromosomes, which can only be done in a laboratory setting. So they actually still think that God created us, as opposed to Elohim, which is the actual translation of God, which is God's, which was the alien race name. So here, for example, which is something similar I'm going to be putting in my book, shows you the Genesis version of the 7 days of creation. However, the original tablets, now Enki was the person, God, that we're talking about in this particular paragraph. And, well, I won't spoil it for you, but you can guess it's not the same as that. It's so just let me know by clicking a like whether you think it's a good idea to do this book, whether you'd be interested in it. I'd love it if you could watch to the end of the video and tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm right, because I'm talking about aliens creating humans and I'm on about the Anunnaki. So let's just have a look here. Very simple. You can figure this one out yourself. Mars was the Roman god of war. Jupiter was the king of Roman gods. Saturn, you can get where I'm going with this, they're all planets. Neptune was the Roman god of sea. Neptune, Roman. Okay, so we only knew about Neptune in 1846. The Greeks knew about it way before. How did the Greeks know about Neptune, the planet, unless Enki, who was the god of water, Neptune being a water planet, Poseidon and Neptune being the same person as Enki? Because you cannot physically see Neptune with your own eye. So someone knew about all these planets. Do you agree with me? Did the Anunnaki aliens create hybrid animals? Well, if you go to the British Museum website and don't click on the top one there, click on collection, then you get a new window which you can start typing in things such as Enlil, Enki, Marduk, for example. And they do give it a good, fairly decent description. They don't actually translate it, unfortunately. And that's because, for example, this one here, you'll see it says it's to do with the Babylonian flood story, which is basically Noah's flood. And we know that we've got the other tablets that have been translated that show Enki was the one that told Noah, not God. So, of course, they don't want to write all down, so they don't actually tell us, unfortunately. However, you can look and see things like this. And this is actually a gate, believe it or not. It was part of a gate. But they show these animals which don't have the proportions of a horse. And that's because they're not actually part of a horse. To find out what kind of horse it is and whether or not it was actually genetically modified by the Anunnaki, you can watch my video on Patreon called Everything You Need to Know About Mermaids. Yes, I know, what's animals got to do with mermaids? But if you watch my video on my Patreon page, Our True History, you'll see. But I'm just going to play a little bit now for you to show you why those are not horses that's on that door gate thing.
Did the Anunnaki create not just half Anunnaki and half something else? Did they create half animal and another half animal? If they did, this would mean they knew how to use DNA. Well, there's now evidence that they did create hybrid animals. Mesopotamians were using hybrids of domesticated donkeys and wild asses to pull their war wagons 4,500 years ago, at least 500 years before horses were bred for the purpose, a new study reveals. The analysis of ancient DNA from animal bones unearthed in northern Syria resolves a long-standing question of just what type of animals were the congers described in ancient sources as pulling wool wagons.
So you get the idea, but obviously it carries on with mermaids, etc., because that's a video about mermaids. So feel free to watch that. But hopefully you enjoyed this. But do go to the British Museum. It's very interesting when you start looking at things such as this and you start scrutinising what they're actually doing, and you start to learn that poses, just like Egyptians, poses represent various different things in their hieroglyphics in Egypt, and some of these do the same, especially for the gods. So hopefully you've learned something today. Gods love you, yes, plural. I'm calling out anyone that wants to do a live debate with me who believes there's just one God compared to the original Old Bible or the original text that the Bible copied from the Sumerians, where it's gods. Anyone want to do a live debate? Jesus. I've been asked why I don't talk about Jesus when people say I'm one of the best researchers on the Anunnaki or ancient history. But that's because the Anunnakis finished writing 3000 BC. So in other words, 3000 years before Christ, and then Christ came along. So where the Bible copies, and it does, copies these ancient texts, we can read these as hundreds of thousands of them, and we can understand things like heaven should have been space, firmament should have been an atmosphere, etc., etc. But when it comes to the period of Jesus, there is nothing to go back to. So not many people actually bother rereading in modern language the Hebrew version of what happens in Jesus' period. So knowing how much they got wrong from these ancient tablets compared to what's actually in the Bible, I don't want to go by the modern or the old version of what happened to Jesus, because I'm sure it's wrong, just as they got the translations wrong here. The Bible is really important to a lot of people, and when I do my videos talking about the texts that predate the Bible, that the Bible copied from, I get people quoting lines from the Bible, and I'm there trying to explain to them, look, here, go here, look at the translations of the original tablets, and of course they don't bother, and they keep coming back, and I mean literally over and over. So I thought I'd just point out once and again that I did actually ask for religious people to do a live with me. This is a recent one, and 0 people's took me up on that, and also I did one about a year ago when I had tens of thousands of people view it, and only one lovely lady actually did take me up on the offer to do a live chat. But just to point out that the actual tablets are genuine, I'll do another video on this one. But look, here in the British Museum, because it's similarity with the flood story in Genesis, this is a tablet that's talking about what happens after the flood, and this one is what happens before the flood. In other words, Enki telling Noah, or Sazudra as he was called.